What is up, guys? Welcome back. We got another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. Just a quick one for you here. It is Tuesday, September 27th. Before we get into week 4, we'll be doing our start sits and things like that on Wednesday night, live at 7 o'clock. Tonight, I want to look at fantasy points allowed, and I think I'm going to try and do this weekly going forward. Just a quick video here on thefantasyfellowship.com. There's a link in the description. I tally up all of the fantasy points allowed by position. So here we're looking at a chart, total PPR points allowed by defense. And you can see teams at the top are allowing the most fantasy points to quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends, and then it's all added up together here. So the Baltimore Ravens, they are the worst team allowing fantasy points here. So 118.74 total. That's about 23 to quarterbacks, 27 to running backs, an amazing 56 to wide receiver, and just an average 11.83 here. So the way to read this chart is green means you want to target that position. So clearly the Ravens are really bad against the wide receiver position. They're kind of average against tight ends. Lean in towards starting wide receiver so far. And I know they played against Tua and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill that one game, but they have allowed a lot of receiver points. They also allowed a pretty big game to the New England Patriots. In week 1, they allowed some receiving points to the Jets. So there's some things to learn here. I know it's week 3, but there's still some useful information. And the red teams here are teams you kind of want to avoid. So we're going to get into this each by position here. And again, you guys can check this out on thefantasyfellowship.com. Now let's get into the quarterback position. And so far through 3 games here, the Miami Dolphins allowing the most fantasy points to quarterback. Of course, they did play Lamar in week 2, so that does skew things. And look at the Ravens are right there too. They did play Tua, so things might be skewed a little bit here, but the Dolphins have allowed 931 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 166 rushing yards, and a touchdown. And this week, the Dolphins are going to play at Cincinnati. So I know Joe Burrow has struggled so far to start the year, but maybe we see them take advantage of this Dolphins secondary on a short week. I like Joe Burrow. I think he can be a top 5, top 10 QB. The Ravens, another team that looks pretty bad against the quarterback. 1,099 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. You take away the games from Tua, and there's only 1 touchdown in there. So the Ravens, there's a lot to learn yet. I think there's some very useful things through 3 weeks here, but we'll see about this one. The Ravens so far, they did allow Mac Jones to kind of throw the ball around with Devontae Parker, so it's interesting. We're going to see the Ravens take on the Buffalo Bills this week. So far, it's a good matchup for Josh Allen in that passing game. The Lions coming in here, they've so far played a handful of good teams. Kirk Cousins had a pretty good game against them. They're going to get Seattle. So I think leaning into DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, the receivers attached to good QBs make a lot of sense. You have the Washington football team. They've allowed 8 passing touchdowns. So have the Titans. So the football team and the Titans, teams to take advantage of. The football team's going to play Dallas. So if you play in Superflex leagues, maybe Cooper Rush is interesting as Washington heads to Dallas. And then the other team we mentioned, Tennessee, allowing 8 passing touchdowns. Now keep in mind they did play against Josh Allen week 2, but they're traveling to Indianapolis where Matt Ryan could, whip up another 2 touchdown, maybe a 3 touchdown game. So I like that one there. Looking at the strength here, teams that don't allow points to quarterback, the Buffalo Bills, the San Francisco 49ers, the Tampa Bay Bucks, the Houston Texans. Teams are running on the Texans, and then Cincinnati down here so far. So these are teams you kind of want to avoid. I don't know if this is 100% truth, but I do feel pretty good about some of these defenses being very strong. That's Buffalo, San Fran, Tampa, maybe the Eagles, maybe the Broncos, some good teams down here. So lean into some of these matchups. And let's take advantage of the green so far. Let's move on to the running back position. And again, this is filtered by PPR. I did put their half PPR in standard, but I really don't think it matters too much for what we're looking at. If it's, whatever your format is, you can see green is green and red is red. So it doesn't really matter what format. The Detroit Lions allowing the most rushing fantasy points here. 6 touchdowns on the ground, and they've given up a ton of receiving yards here as well. So almost 300 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns, 16 receptions, 119 receiving yards. And this week, the Lions are going to get the Seattle Seahawks. So maybe lean into Rashad Penny. I'm open to him being a starter for us this week. The Houston Texans got ran over last week by the Khalil Herbert-led Chicago Bears. 477 yards, 2 touchdowns, 14 receptions, 92 receiving yards here. And the Texans, they're going to get Austin Eckler and the LA Chargers, and the Chargers need to get that run game going. Maybe this is an opportunity where Eckler gets finally some positive things going on the ground. I like Eckler a lot this week. The Seattle Seahawks here coming in at number 3. Of course, they're going to be playing the Detroit Lions, so that makes me like Jamal Williams. I think he's a top 10 play, probably a top 15 back as a floor. So Jamal Williams, maybe even a little bit of Craig Reynolds in there. The Raiders going up against the Denver Broncos. I think Javonte Williams, this is maybe a game where he pops off. Melvin Gordon also worth a low-end RB2 flex start. And then the Minnesota Vikings coming in here as the 28th ranked team. I think that's an interesting one. We're going to play in London against Alvin Kamara, so we'll watch for that. I think that could be a nice matchup. Maybe Alvin Kamara finally gets a breakthrough game in week 4 here. So interesting teams at the top. If we look at the bottom, you want to avoid these matchups: the Denver Broncos, the Buccaneers, the Rams, the Bills, and the Patriots. So far, the Broncos haven't really played too many running backs. They did allow Jeff Wilson to kind of have a nice game last week. So I think he ended up with around 12 PPR points. So I like Jeff Wilson. I think he's a good running back. The first 2 weeks, the Broncos didn't really play much. And this week, they're going to get Josh Jacobs. So maybe Jacobs is going to be in for not as great of a day. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're going to be going up against Kansas City Chiefs. That makes me hesitant on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The Rams, they're going to be traveling to San Francisco. So that's a tough matchup for the Jeff Wilson that I was just talking about. And then Buffalo going up against the Ravens. We shouldn't be starting Ravens running backs right now. And then the Patriots. Really stingy against the run here. We're going to see Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, see if they can put a dent into this. So check out the running back numbers. We'll move on to the wide receivers. The worst teams against the receivers, you have the Ravens, the Rams, the Falcons, I need to update this to the Commanders, I understand, and then the Titans. So the Ravens going to be going up against Buffalo. That's tough here. So a team like Tua and the Miami Dolphins took advantage of this. I'm very curious to see what Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, and Isaiah McKenzie can do. The Rams, surprisingly, pretty low here. Of course, they did play Buffalo week 1. They came back and played Atlanta week 2. And then last week, I believe they played the Cardinals. So interesting that they're still ranking second to last. I think this is maybe a trend where they're not as good as we think they are. This week, they're going to be traveling to the 49ers, where, of course, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, these guys come into play. The Falcons going up against Amari Cooper. This could be a really good spot to continue starting Amari Cooper as a wide receiver 2 or 3. The football team, again, traveling to Dallas. You're starting CeeDee Lamb. Maybe Noah Brown's the guy that we want to play in this one. And then the Titans going up against Michael Pittman in the Indianapolis Colts. I really like Michael Pittman. I don't know if there's anybody else that we would want to play in that week. And then the Chargers last week, they got lit up by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, and Marvin Jones all went off. So I don't know if we can learn too much from that one. They had been playing pretty well. But take advantage of these teams here at the top. At the very bottom, again, the Broncos, the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Bengals, and the Patriots. Teams we want to avoid, especially these teams here. I mean, some of them, in the low 30s for reception. So just really stifling opponents' wide receivers. Let's finish up with the tight end numbers here. The Arizona Cardinals, now I get it. They've played Kelsey, they've played Waller, and they've played Tyler Higbee. They're allowing 24 fantasy points per game to the tight end, which is just insane. This week, the Cardinals are going to be playing the Tennessee Titans, I believe. Is that correct? The Titans, they're traveling to Carolina. Carolina doesn't really have a tight end, so expect that number to come down. The Patriots going to Green Bay. We'll see if Robert Tonyan can have a breakthrough game. He's kind of due. He looked good last week against Tampa Bay. Maybe Robert Tonyan is a sneaky play here. Indianapolis Colts, they're going to be, again, hosting who are they hosting? The Colts are hosting the Tennessee Titans. No tight end there that we care about. The Raiders, maybe Albert O or something happens for him. The Falcons, David Njoku had that breakthrough game last week. I like Njoku as well as Amari Cooper in that one. The Broncos going up against Darren Waller. The Chiefs against Tampa Bay, not really a tight end we can take advantage of. But the Bengals, maybe Mike Gesicki has a nice game here on a Thursday night short week. And then teams that are really stingy against the tight end, you have the 49ers going up against Higbee. You have the Saints going up against Irv Smith. You have the Rams going up against Kittle. Buffalo against Mark Andrews, maybe a low Mark Andrews game this week. Dallas Cowboys going up against Logan Thomas. That's kind of a tough matchup. And the Jags going up against Dallas Goedert. So interesting. Just wanted to share all this information with you guys. If you like this video, please let me know in the comments if there's anything I can do better or you want me to discuss more, talk more about. Please let me know. Again, this is just something new I'm trying. I kind of want to do this every week going forward where we just talk about which teams we should be attacking this week and which matchups to avoid. So I hope you guys liked it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you live tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night, I will be going live 7 p.m. Central Time to answer your start sits. So thank you guys. Have a good one. Peace.